I started reading novels about a year ago and always wanting to try a classic, the kind of book that everyone calls life changing. But every time I thought about reading one, I hesitated. What if I don't understand the language? What if it's boring? What if I'm just not smart enough to get it? So I just kept putting it off, not for a week or two, for whole month. I kept convincing myself that I wasn't ready yet. But here is what I realized after finally reading my first classic, that the hardest part about reading a classic isn't its language or the length, it's starting the book itself. And the moment you start reading your first classic, all of those feels starts to fade away and you begin to realize that it's not some ancient masterpiece that you cannot touch. It's just a simple story. And that's the reason why it's been relevant for all of these years. That's why it's called a classic, because everyone can connect with it. And that's exactly what happened with me when I read Crime and Punishment. I wanted to know how it would end, and that alone carried me through those dense philosophy, those confusing Russian names. We all like the idea of reading a classic. There is this perception that inside those pages lies some hidden wisdom that will make us deep thinkers. But here's the catch, that expectation doesn't really inspire us. It often backfires, it often makes the book feel even more intimidating. Oscar Wilde once said, "It is what you read when you don't have to that determines what you will be when you can't help it." Classics carry a reputation that can feel intimidating, but real value comes when you read it when you want to, not when you have to. I get it. I started reading novels just a year ago, and back then, even the thought of reading a classic felt impossible. So I began reading with books like Harry Potter, The Alchemist. But deep down, I wanted to try a classic. Cause I had this picture in my head that once I start reading a classic, something would change. That I would start seeing the world differently. Maybe I would even sound smarter when I speak about books, like those readers who can quote old authors effortlessly, but that's not what really happened. Now let's be honest, classics aren't easy to read. The language can feel heavy and old fashioned. And sometimes when you are halfway through a page and you begin to wonder if you actually understood any of it. But beneath all of those complexity, it's still just a story about people's choices, guilt, and love. The same universal emotion that every story is built on. But if it's just a story, then why do so many beginners, including me, think about giving up after just reading 50 pages or so? I remember taking a break of 2 weeks after reading 50 pages and convinced that this book just wasn't for me. But when I came back to it, I realized it wasn't the book that was hard, it was me who was trying to grasp every single detail instead of just reading the story. But that's the thing, most beginners don't quit because the book is boring, we quit because what's happening in our head, things like imposter syndrome. You know that voice whenever you try something new that tells you you're not smart enough for this, and then the language and cultural gap, those old fashioned words and that slow pacing that makes everything feel a lot heavier than it's supposed to be. But it doesn't have to be that way. I found 3 simple habits that turned my reading experience into something that I actually enjoyed. Start by simply following the story. You don't have to dig into all that deep psychology and symbolism in the first chapter. Just follow the story, let the plot pull you in first, and once you are truly invested into the story, all of those hidden meanings behind those words will start to reveal itself naturally. Unless, of course, you're reading it for your studies or research. Go ahead, go deep. But for readers like me, it's better to start by simply enjoying the story. Use supporting tools when you are at that point. Well, you have read the whole chapter, but when you look back to it, you haven't understood a single thing from it. What really helped me was going online and reading some online summaries or Reddit thread. But be careful when you are reading a Reddit thread because people can give some insane spoilers. I got a huge spoiler for Crime and Punishment and that ruined the whole experience. But still, it really helps. It's like having that one friend that gets the book and explains it to you. And the most important thing that I learned was take a break when you need one. You don't have to finish the whole chapter in one sitting. As I said earlier, I took 14 days off after reading just 50 pages. And when I came back to it, it made much more sense. Marcus Aurelius sums this up perfectly that Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. So take some time off and it will start making sense to you when you see the other perspective. I would try. There were moments I wanted to quit, but that's the thing. You don't always have to push through a book just to say that you have finished it. The first ever book, Norse Mythology, that I bought was in 2021. I started reading it in 2023 and I still haven't finished it, and that's okay because you don't always have to finish it. Remember why you started reading a book, because something in that story you really wanted to know, or something in that story really connected with you.